Well, this is turning out to be quite the fun, beautiful little loop on the north side of Mummy's Nose between Deer Creek Road and Mummy's Nose. Wow, it starts out at the Catch Pen Loop Trailhead parking, and instead of going down onto Catch Pen Loop, it heads up and makes a huge loop around a large gully. And that gully is below. I came up the west side of the gully. I'm going to see about circling around above the gully and descending on the east side of the gully. We don't know how all that's going to work, but wow, if it all works, this is an awesome loop. Spectacular views. There's the Sheep Range. And there's Angel Peak. We're looking down, when we look toward the Sheep Range, we're looking down toward Deer Creek Road. You can't really get lost on this loop because you're between Mummy's Nose and Deer Creek Road. And I just can't overstate the spectacular views all around. And it's basically a walk, a steep walk, yes, but still basically a walk. And look where it takes you. Alpine territory up here. From this direction, we're at the Catch Pen Loop Trailhead right here. And here is the Catch Pen Loop Trail. That's going in the north direction. This is going in the south direction, making the loop. So there you have it, Catch Pen Loop Trailhead. It looks like the best route might be right up through this area. Now there is a forest road right across Deer Creek Road. Number of trailheads. Last time I took the trailhead leading along the edge of this ridge. I want to take trails that are going to lead up to this ridge area. So we're going to want to veer right once we cross Deer Creek Road and look. There are a number of trails right across the road, and we want to look for the trails that lead up to this ridge here. So here we go. Okay, as we head across Deer Creek Road, we're entering what's not labeled, but on the map it says it's Forest Road 029A. Now, there's the confusion of trailheads over here. So let's get the lay of the land. What we're looking for here is an approach to Mummy's Nose right up through this area, which indicates that that trail to the right might be a way to go. Last time I was looking for the possibility of skirting the left side of Mummy's Nose and heading toward the Forehead, which makes Road 029A skirting the base of this left ridge more of a possibility for Mummy's Forehead. So yeah, if we're going to take this ridge on the right and hopefully end up at this area, then it looks to me like this trail on the right is leading in a direction that's going to work out for that approach. So let's go ahead and take this trail, see if it leads up to this ridge and then over toward Mummy's Nose. So here we go. So far so good. Winding upward, which is a good sign, and then looking down on the desert overlook parking area, and that's also a good sign because we know we need to be on this side of the desert overlook parking area down on Deer Creek Road. So let's continue on up. Hopefully this will wind around and lead toward a good ascent ridge. We don't know. Well, here's a good sign. This little road is winding around and heading toward our target, which is right up in this area. I'm not sure what it's going to look like ahead. It looks like it could end any moment. Hopefully there's a little trail beyond this, but yeah, let's see what happens up here. Continuing to wind around and upward here. And another view down toward the desert overlook. And you can see we're looking straight across at the sheep range. And by the way, that pointy mountain is Gas Peak. I'm thinking more and more I should have headed up earlier. However, let's continue. Just see where this road goes and if there's a route up toward that opening in the Mummy's Nose Cliffs. It looks like there is a route leading upward in this direction. Let's take this. It's going in the direction we want to go. We don't know how it's going to pan out. Let's just try it. Well, we could be on a route leading nowhere, or a route leading up in the direction we want to go. We just don't know. But let's continue. This is pretty curious how this continues upward in this direction, though it doesn't look like it's been traveled recently, except perhaps by this unfortunate animal. Let's continue up till we get a better view. Okay, now I'm really curious as we continue up this fairly steep but basically gradual route compared to other routes up ridges. We're in a gully, and looks like there was at one time a trail or a road here, which obviously hasn't been used for a long time. So let's continue up and see where this leads. I'm looking forward to reaching a high point where we can see the Mummy's Nose area. I like making predictions when I'm in an area like this where I can't see around. Like what am I going to be looking at when I get to the summit of this gully? I think that I'll be looking slightly to the left and seeing Angel Peak, and further to the left, the Sheep Range, and to the slight right, maybe, I don't know, a little further to the right, Mummy's Nose. So we don't know, but this has really got me guessing. And by the way, I've wanted to check out the terrain in this area below Mummy's Nose for future circuit adventures. And we know this gully leads down to that little road that I'm thinking was Avalanche Trail Road down in this direction, or Avalanche Road. It circles around the base of the Mummy's Nose area and circles around to above Lee Canyon Road. And yeah, just looking around, that looks like a portion of the Sheep Range. And then you can also see below what looks like it might be Lee Canyon Road. See if we can nail that. Yeah, it would be right down in this area. So, leading to Highway 95. So, yeah, kind of interesting to see the terrain up at this particular perspective. Okay, here we are at the summit of that gully. And yeah, not the most efficient route up to this opening. As I look around, yeah, there's the opening, closer view. Looks like there's some real wild terrain between here and there. As I look around, yeah, a little further to the right than I expected is Angel Peak. And by the way, that's a radar installation. I used to think it was an observatory, Air Force radar. And then over in this direction, Sheep Range. And then you can see Lee Canyon Road leading down to Highway 95 below. So there's our perspective. Bristlecone pine, they start close to 9,000 feet, and my very approximate altimeter watch is saying that we are about at 8,900 feet. So that would tend to verify altitude. Mountain mahogany here. So yeah, we could try and traverse this area. Boy, it looks pretty brutal though. Tempting to get up that way, right up to that opening. And now that I'm looking at it, remember way back at Deer Creek Road and Forest Road 029A, I had mentioned hugging a gully or hugging a ridge, hugging the right base of a ridge. That would be the ridge, and that's the way I came up last time. And wow, it's looking like that route is much more gradual and direct to where we're going. So yeah, it was good to check this route out, but I'm not sure it's a very good route. We'll see. And by the way, we will probably head down this gully on the way back and end up more likely directly across from where we parked at the Catchpen Loop Trailhead on Deer Creek Road. Continuing up this ridge line, there you can see Mummy's Nose and the target that I was shooting for. Still a bit off, but maybe this ridge winds around. Another thing I'm noticing is that ridge down to the left is the ridge I took earlier. And yeah, the gully below is the gully that exits out at Deer Creek Road at the Catchpen Loop Trailhead where I parked. There is Angel Peak, and by the way, here's a really cool, I believe it's a bristlecone. Pretty amazing. Okay, getting back to this gully. On the other side of the gully is what I called the director's house. Above Camp Stimson, maybe not, made of the same materials as the buildings at the camp. And then you can see over here, I believe this is Bristlecone Ridge on the North Loop Trail. And then back over to Mummy's Nose. So let's continue on up. This could, by the way, make an awesome circuit view trail where you've got Catchpen Loop below Deer Creek Road. This could be an awesome Mummy's Nose loop up this ridge and then cross over down the other ridge and gully, starting out from that Catchpen Loop Trail parking area. So yeah, let's just continue to explore up here and see if this is possibly a future loop trail. Just topped a ridge I'm way on this side of Mummy's Nose. There you can see Mummy's Nose. And there is the potential access point right there. Quite an interesting perspective from here. First of all, there is on the left South Sister, middle is North Sister, and then Black Rock Sister, and Max Peak, McFarland Peak in the background. Let's take a look at all those. South Sister, North Sister, Black Rock Sister. Yeah, it's just a big black rock. McFarland Peak, no, not McFarland, Max Peak. And then getting back to Black Rock Sister and North Sister. Behind North Sister, a portion of, I believe that's McFarland Peak. And then, yeah, looking down, here's Lee Canyon Road. You see it below there. Couple beautiful bristlecone skeletons here. Look at this one. And then over in this direction, Highway 95 corridor. And then if we come up over here, we're looking at the Sheep Range. Over through the trees here, Angel Peak. And then below us is that gully that could actually make a great loop at the base of Mummy's Nose. And it's so beautiful up here. Very glad to have come up here. We'll continue and see if we can circle around. Not sure it's possible. We will end heading down that gully. But for now, yeah, let's see if this ridge will, how close this ridge will take us to the area at the base of Mummy's Nose cliffs. This looks like a good high point for a 360-degree view. Mummy's Nose area. You can actually see behind the nose is Mummy's head our forehead area. This being Mummy's nose. Looking toward the south sister now. North sister. Max Peak. Highway 95 corridor. Very beautiful, untouched area here. And now Angel Peak. La Madre Mountains. Back up to Mummy's nose. And just look at this terrain up here. Wow. And it looks like there is a route that leads up toward that passage above. But boy, what a roundabout route. But look at the terrain up here. Limestone, pines, mountain mahogany, juniper. Wow, just amazing. On top of the world. Back to Lee Canyon Road, almost directly below. So there you have it. Well, it looks like one could almost make this a grand circuit, heading down here on this north side of the gully, northwest, and then up a ways, over, around that limestone below, around the other side of that limestone, and down, and then out that gully, back to the Catchpen Loop Trailhead. Quite a lower Mummy's Nose circuit. And now, unbelievably, I'm on a faint little trail up at the summit of this loop. And there's the canyon below, leading down to Deer Creek Road, the Catchpen Trailhead. There's the ridge on the west side of the canyon. There's the ridge on the east side of the canyon. And still continuing, let's see where this little trail takes us. Continuing up the west ridge of what I'm now going to call Mummy's Nose Northern Baseline Alpine Loop. That's a long name, but says a lot about where we are. There's Mummy's Nose up above. And I believe there'd be an access to Mummy's Nose for those who want to summit. But what I want to do is continue around the upper end of the loop and then head down the eastern side of the loop. There's the sheep range. Just give you an idea of where we are. But wow, this is untouched, very spectacular. There's Max Peak, the sisters, and McFarland in the background. We have McFarland Peak right between the South Sister on the left and the North Sister on the right. At this point, we're about 9,300 feet elevation, definitely in the bristlecone pine zone. And believe it or not, there's a little cairn here. So it's marking some route, and I would imagine one of the routes leading up to Mummy's Nose, which is above there. Better view. Double summit area. Okay, let's continue on. See where this leads. And if we can make a loop out of this. Another cairn here. I would bet I'm on a route to Mummy's Nose. There's Mummy's Nose. Doesn't look like it's that far above us. And here we are again at the final approach to Mummy's Nose. Somewhere up in here. Looks like a lot of choices ahead. We've been in this area before, but yeah, there it is again. So today we're doing the Mummy's Nose Northern Alpine Loop. And this is the summit of that loop. We're closing in on the summit of that loop at least. And then we head down the Eastern Ridge to this huge canyon gully. End up at Deer Creek Road and the Catch Pen Loop Trailhead area. So yeah, pretty amazing. So there are a few different approaches up here, but I'd almost bet that there are a number of approaches, final approaches to Mummy's Nose from up in this area. Today we're doing the large loop. We came up the western side of the canyon. We'll be heading down the eastern side of the canyon. Beautiful alpine surroundings up here. And then of course, if you're interested in continuing on up to Mummy's Nose, like I said, I almost bet that is the direction right up there. It looks very possible. Little class 3 rock scrambling, light class 3, I would say, from this area. And what you would do is head straight up this rocky area, circle around to the left, above, and then continue on to Mummy's Nose, which is probably not that far above us at this point. Although, let's see, it could be as much as 1,000 feet when it comes to it. Okay, let's circle around and head down the eastern ridge of this canyon. Question, if I just kept heading up this ridge or this slope to the ridge line above where you see the blue sky, where would I be? I'm going to go for it. Well, I've ascended to the horizon here, and we'll look over the edge in a bit, but just want to note, it's a little trail up here leading up in this direction, and boy, it looks like a passage to the summit of the nose. My way around that big loop I've been on will be back down in this direction. Here's down toward the center of that canyon below. Western Ridge. Eastern Ridge over there. But I'm just so curious. Got to keep heading upward. Weather's good, and I just want to see where this leads. Well, I couldn't help myself. Here's the slope I just came up. There ahead is the smaller summit toward Mummy's Nose. The actual summit is to the left. Did a close-up of the lower summit. And then, yeah, we look over to the left. And through the trees, somewhere up there is the summit. Maybe you can see it more clearly than I can. There we go. Mummy's Nose Summit. And then, as I mentioned, I wanted to look over the horizon that we saw from below as we were heading up the slope. And here we are, looking down over the edge of a sheer cliff. And there you can see McFarland Peak on the left. And then the sisters in the foreground. Bonanza Peak. And Max Peak. And then down to Lee Canyon Road below. So yeah, we are on the edge of a sheer drop off. But I just wanted to get up here to see what the world looked like from this perspective. Okay, let's keep heading up this little trail in the direction of Mummy's Nose. Still not sure if I'm going to go all the way up there, but I just want to go a little further up this trail. Okay, here's another perspective on that passage between the two summits. Mummy's Nose, true summit on the left, and then the lower summit area on the right. So let's pan around here. Bristlecone pines all around. Wow. Okay, we're going to angle downward, make the big loop, come back at some point, and move a little further toward the summit of Mummy's Nose, right in the center. Okay, here we are at what I'm going to call the summit of the Mummy's Nose Northern Loop, a loop between Mummy's Nose and Deer Creek Road. And here we are, sitting under a bristlecone pine. Beautiful place, awesome view. As a matter of fact, here's Gas Peak. Little pointy peak, North Las Vegas. Towers above North Las Vegas. And then to the left is the Sheep Range. And here's that ridge line I was on a little earlier. This is the Western Ridgeline that I ascended. There's Lee Canyon Road. And now I'm on a little trail that I believe leads upward to Mummy's Nose, but I'm out of gas right now. So anyway, heading down this trail along the ridge line a little ways, and then I'm going to angle to the right through that forest below and hit the eastern ridge on this loop. So that's the plan. Let's see what actually happens. But I got to say, this is an awesome loop and very spectacular. The views are great. You're in an alpine setting almost the entire way. And it's all class 2, really, class 1 and 2. Steep, but no rock scrambling. So if you just want to get up to a high point in an alpine area that is seldom to never traveled and enjoy the view, this is the loop to be on. Okay, let's head down. Okay, now angling my way downward, see if we can hit that eastern side of the loop and then head down the ridge, the eastern ridge. And here is looking up. So let's continue down. Okay, as I remember, I do not want to head down toward Angel Peak. That would put me in the Camp Stimpson area, be about a mile off my landing point. So I'm going to angle down in this direction, and that is taking me toward the Sheep Range, which I can see through the trees. Not very visible at this point, but I know it's there. Okay, now I'm heading down what I believe is the Eastern Ridge. But the target is the Sheep Range in the distance there. So it all looks on course. And this is where I have descended from. Don't want to head down in this direction, which is Angel Peak. So this is the way to go. And there's my target ahead, the sheep range. So I'm just going to keep heading toward the sheep range, and that should take me down this eastern ridge and down to eventually land on road 029A, Forest Road. That'll take me down to Deer Creek Road. And by the way, on this loop, it's hard to get lost. And the slopes are fairly gentle once you get a little further down. But it's hard to get lost because you just keep heading toward the sheep range. You'll hit Deer Creek Road. And the only question will be, do you need to turn right or left to get back to your starting point? So let's continue down. Here's some good verification we're on track. The sheep range, straight ahead through the trees here. We're on the eastern ridge, descending the eastern ridge, and we look over in this direction, and there's the western ridge, and the canyon is between. So we just keep heading down in this direction, and we are on course. Okay, definitely on course. I can see the beast below. See if I can nail the position here. Yeah, there we go. And that is the Catchpin Loop Trailhead. So I just need to head down this gully between me and that trailhead, and we should be hitting Forest Road 029A very soon. And here we are at Forest Road 029A. I missed it by about 50 feet, but that's close enough. Now we're on the road and heading down to Deer Creek Road. Okay, by way of review, what we've done today. Here is Mummy's Nose. You can see the two summits. We reached the saddle between those two summits and headed up somewhat toward the true summit on the left. And yeah, we were probably about 800 feet below the summit. How did we get there? We took what we're calling the Mummy's Nose North Alpine Loop. We headed up this ridge, beautiful limestone up near the top, bristlecone pine forest. We reached the saddle and then angled over to this side of the gully where we headed down. Big loop, Mummy's Nose North Alpine Loop. Awesome experience. It was all class 1 and 2, some steep loose rock, but nothing really difficult. I didn't slip once. And there you have it. Mummy's North Alpine Loop. And by the way, We look right across Deer Creek Road here, and there is the beast, or where we began. So if you want to practice your wilderness navigation skills in a place that's sort of hard to get lost, no trails, and you're between Deer Creek Road and Mummy's Nose, go up the West Ridge, come down the East Ridge, the gullies between, and if you get off course, you'll land on Deer Creek Road. And then all you have to do is figure out, are you above or below where you parked? But hey, you're on Deer Creek Road, main road here. Have fun.